Okay, hello, welcome everybody. This evening we are going to make some caldo. This is a really nice, uh, I would say, simple and delicious dish. All the ingredients are really going to shine for us here. We're using some chicken and some sausage and a bunch of vegetables. And you can see though where it's not an overwhelming amount. We have potatoes, we have mushrooms, I have a pasilla pepper, um, and we also sometimes call the Anaheim. We have a white onion, some garlic, some carrots, some corn on the cob. Um, Anyway, a few simple things thrown in the pot, and caldo translates to soup or broth. There's all kinds of versions of caldo. This version is inspired by Mexican immigrants coming through the Willamette Valley, and it's really inspired by what you might eat around the campfire. After working in the fields or what have you, and enjoying a nice dish together. And in that spirit, you can add what you have. If you're using the ingredients in our recipe, it comes together nicely. But if you don't have something and have something you'd like to substitute, it will also be delicious. So really, what I'd like to look at mainly, or in conjunction, is the method and the method to making a caldo. So one aspect of this is the grilling of some vegetables, and it's not necessary to grill your vegetables, but it does add a really nice flavor. And if you are fortunate enough to be making this on an open flame and you have a grill, you'll get some really great flavors in the background, some nice smoky flavors. I do have a grill back here, which I would be a nice thing to use, like a gas grill. And if you have a gas outdoor grill, I would recommend using that. And another really neat thing are these, they call this a stovetop grill, and you can get some beautiful char on your vegetables utilizing the stovetop grill. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start by grilling the white onion, the pasilla, and the tomatoes. And I'm going to go ahead and throw the corn on there as well, because a little grilled corn adds a great flavor. And having the corn on the cob adds a good flavor for your broth. You'll notice that we're just using water for this. And so we're actually building the broth in the pot. And next week, we're going to be really focusing a lot on broth making and chicken and that sort of thing. But, one thing that is something that comes up a lot is the difference between a broth and a stock. And this this counts as a broth because we have the meat in there, and we have a lot of vegetables. And so it's definitely a broth. A stock is when you're looking more at just the bones and creating a rich and a rich stock, a rich liquid to work into a broth or into a sauce, something like that. Anyway, so we have our white onion, and I cut off the top end, and now I'm just going to cut right through the root end, cut it in half. And this is a good way to get into the onion and easy to peel. And so I just have my stovetop grill heated here, and I'm going to just start putting this stuff on here. And so I am coming to you live from one of our 5 Basics locations. And these chickens are coming from you recently live from nearby, and they're close to home, so you know they're probably as happy as they can be in the situation. These are our own Aurora Valley organic chickens, and I must say, I mean, I think it's good to talk about what we're seeing in the stores now with the spring chickens. They're just amazing. They're really big and beautiful, you know, and because they are organic, natural, you know, natural chickens, they have their seasons, you know, and right now is a great season for chicken, or you know, otherwise known as the closest descendant to dinosaurs, right? Chickens are the closest living, well, they are living dinosaurs. So come get your dinosaurs at Basics Market. And we also have dinosaur eggs. Gwendolyn's is our dinosaur egg brand. And with Easter coming up, you might want to look at our beautiful Gwendolyn eggs. So I've quartered the white onion, and I'm leaving the stem end on, and that just helps hold all the layers together while you're grilling this stuff. And so that's good. And if you have a barbecue going, you know, you could pop this stuff on here. And as I mentioned, this would be really a nice dish to make camping on your big fire pit kind of thing. And you know, I'm really happy to be doing this on a Friday evening. It's been a long day, and so I've been looking forward to this all day because this is a relaxing dish. You know, we'll just have a few things to cut up, throw them in a pot, and then you can enjoy it. So let's see, what do we got here? We've got our corn, we've got our onion. Here's that pepper. I'm going to pop that on there and crank it up a bit. And again, if you have access to open flame, like something like this pepper is really nice if you can get it right on that fire. And what we're looking to do is to blister the skin, get it blistered and charred a little bit, and then we'll be able to peel the skin right off. And then we've got some nice vine ripened tomatoes here. And so I'm using 2 tomatoes, and we're going to just cut these in half. And I'll take the little skin end off. And I have, as always, the handy compost bowl, right? You want to keep that close. It makes life easier in the kitchen. And then these tomatoes, you just want to pop those right on the griddle. Griddle, something in between, stovetop grill.
Chef Sam, we have a question about white onions. So why white onions, and what's the difference between those and, say, a Spanish onion or something?
You know, white onions, you'll find white onions are used a lot in Mexican cuisine and South American cuisine, and I think it might just be, you know, they're more common in those areas. I don't know that for a fact, but that's usually white onions will pop up in these cuisines. The difference flavor-wise is they're a little bit sharper, and then like a yellow onion has a mellower, sweeter side. But you could really use any onion here, would be delicious. But white onions are going to be nice and assertive for this dish. And by the way, if there are any more questions, you can find there's a question button on your Zoom deal there, and you can ask questions, and we have someone here who will be reading the questions, and then we can talk about it. We're calling this class Caldo and Conversation. And so please feel free to ask a question or tell me something. We are live, and I'm going live today. Sometimes sometimes I'm thinking about this being recorded and posted, but today I think we'll just go live. It's such a beautiful day, right? And I'm feeling like we should celebrate this weather with this nice caldo. Corn on the cob it's a little early yet for corn on the cob, but you know, as far as being everywhere, but you can find it. And if you can't find it, you could just throw a handful of like frozen corn kernels into the dish, and you do that. We'll talk about that when I get there, but you know, a little later on, I don't think you need to griddle your corn kernels in it. But again, the advantage of having the cob is it's going to give a lot of nice flavor to your broth. Okay. So, well, this stuff, I have two little electric burners here. I'm going to switch burners and start the next step. So we'll continue to grill our vegetables there. And again, the only thing on the grill is the corn, the onion, the tomato, and the pepper.
We did have a question, Sam, about the pepper. So is it a poblano, and can you tell us a little bit more about poblanos?
Yeah, I mean, the poblano, and I think I was calling it pasilla, poblano, pasilla, and I think Anaheim too. They're all pretty close. But what they are, and what this poblano is, and like I said, you'll often see it called pasilla. It is a real mild green chili, so it's not super spicy. Usually it's just warm. So it gives a nice background heat, but it's not like crazy spicy. If you do like spice, you can finish this dish with like hot sauce. We are going to throw some lime and cilantro on it at the end when we serve it, and at that point you could also, you know, throw some hot sauce on there and spice it up a little bit, because this dish is not going to be super spicy. It will get a little bit of spice. We'll pick up from your chorizo sausage, and that's another important component in this dish. Again, because we're developing the broth in the pot. So it looks like speaking of that, let's get that going. My pot is smoking hot. So I've got some chicken here. I have one thigh, and these are all bone in. You don't have to do bone in, but once again, just like with the corn bone, we'll call it the corn cob, and the chicken bone also will give you more flavor and richness in your broth. So I have one chicken thigh. It's just we're kind of scarce in the meat market. When I went shopping earlier today on bone-in chicken thighs, so I didn't want to deplete their stock. We had a lot of drumsticks, so I'm using some drumsticks as well, which work great for this dish. And really, any piece of chicken you've got, bone in, bone out, whatever will be great in this dish. The thigh lends itself to this sort of thing because it has a lot of fat in it, and it gives a real richness to the broth. So it works really nicely here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the skin on these bone-in pieces of chicken because the skin gives a nice richness as well. And if you are watching your fat intake, you can pull the skin off, and that's fine too. It'll work great. So we have some salt and pepper, and this is just some nice kosher salt and some black pepper here. So we're going to go ahead and salt and pepper of chicken. Then I've got my hot Dutch oven here. This is the Dutch oven, is this pot here. I have a lid for it. So any sort of big pot with a lid will work. I believe this is about a 6-quart deal here. And this recipe fits just right in it. You can give yourself a little more room if you like and use a larger pot. I know that Julia Child always said, start with a bigger pot than you think you'll need, and that is a good rule. But I know that this just works in this pot, and it gives you a pretty good ratio of broth to material. But again, that doesn't really matter, because what you're going to do is just fill the water over the stuff in your pot. And then that'll give you the perfect amount of broth to accompany your veggies and so forth in the caldo. And so what we're going to do here is just brown off the chicken. And then while that's browning off, a word from our sausage sponsors, which is Basics Market. And so these sausage are really nice and fresh. These were custom made for me this morning at the Sandy location. The guys are making chorizo. So I know we have chorizo there at least today and tomorrow and for a few days, because they just made a big batch. And these are the chorizo links. And so we're gonna throw them in the pot whole. And what the chorizo does for our broth is it's going to give off all that really nice little bit of heat, and nice spices and stuff. And it'll flavor the broth really well. So that's a key ingredient. And so you'll want to pick up a good chorizo from a Basics Market if you are able.
Sam, is chorizo a pork sausage product, or?
Yeah, these are a pork sausage, and chorizo. It's a pork sausage, and it comes in different forms. You don't see it linked. It's actually less common to see it linked out, and it's really neat. Like to have it in a link. For this, often chorizo, it will be a loose sausage, and traditionally chorizo utilizes some. I think it's the Falmouth brand, but it has like a really interesting texture. A real traditional chorizo will have that really soft texture. So it's a glandular meat, but that's not the case with this. This is just straight ground pork that is seasoned in the style of chorizo, and it will hold up really nice in our broth here. Okay, you can see we're getting nice and brown here with the chicken. And so the next step is to add some chorizo. So we're just going to pop those guys right in there. And then we've got our tomato puree. And I'm just using a real simple tomato sauce, like the most plain tomato sauce in a little can. But you could whiz up some tomatoes. Just any sort of tomato puree type deal will work here. It's going to lend some color, and it's going to lend a nice sweet background flavor to our caldo. So there's that tomato. I'm just going to check on the drilling. And it's drilling along here. It's good. You can see we're getting some nice drill marks on our stovetop grill with our stovetop grill. Let's throw the garlic in. So, and I have the garlic. I've been soaking it in a little bit of warm water, and that's a neat way to help the peel come off without sticking to your hands or your knife. I'll just kind of give it a crack, and then we're going to mince it. And these are a couple nice big garlic cloves. So we'll mince these up, pop those in there into the pot. And we're almost done, really. It's a really, like I said, this is what I call a relaxing time. I like the seasoning on this, just salt and pepper, and that's all you need.
Sam, we've got a question.
Yeah, yes.
One of your fans would like to know, could you use tomato paste instead of the tomato sauce?
Yeah, I was thinking about that all day myself, because I was like, well, tomato, you always have like extra tomato paste, right? And the thing about tomato paste is it's such a strong flavor, but I think it would be fine. And what I came to the conclusion myself, if I were using tomato paste, yeah, I would use maybe like a tablespoon of tomato paste and a tablespoon of water or something, and sort of create that puree that way, and it would be fine. And I think that it would work just great. So I would say yes to a little tomato paste watered down a bit. Okay. So now we can add some more stuff. I got some carrots, which I peeled. I think I peeled one while I was talking, right? But so peeling a carrot, and I used the peeler. And we just want some nice chunky bits that are going to cook evenly for us. So what I think I'll do here is cut them in half, because these carrots were kind of tapered, right? So I'll leave the skinnier end, I'm going to leave whole, and then the thicker end I'm going to cut in half, and then just cut it in a couple chunks, or a few chunks there. And what we're looking for with the vegetables is just to sort of have them in the same realm of size, so they'll cook evenly once they're in the broth mode. And they can be good sized chunks, because also you don't want them to overcook. And we've got some mushrooms, and again, with these larger mushrooms, I'm going to cut them in quarter, the medium ones maybe half, and then I'm just going to leave the little ones whole, and just kind of getting them all in the same size and range. And you can use any mushrooms you like. These are cremini mushrooms. So we were talking a little bit a couple classes ago, I think it was, about mushrooms, and how we see the cremini and the white mushroom and portobellos all almost exclusively, right, in markets. And they're all the same mushroom, they're just different ages. So white mushroom is the youngest, then the cremini is the teenager, and the portobello is the adult mushroom. And cremini, though, have the highest umami rating, the most flavor of those three. So cremini is a good choice, because once again, the mushroom is going to add a lot of great flavor to a broth. Now we come to the potatoes, and again, I didn't come across any fingerlings today, but I did find these neat little new potatoes, and then just some yellow potatoes and some red potatoes. And once again, just kind of find, you were going to have them all in a similar size. So I'll probably just kind of have these little ones, and the larger ones I'm going to half and then cut into thirds. And that's kind of a cool shape, but I like that for this dish. And so all the while I'm just coating everything with the tomato sauce. The chicken is starting to juice out a little bit, and the sausage as well. So starting to have a good aroma, I would say. And again, just kind of doing these wedges. The wedge is the technical term, I suppose. So yeah, fingerling potatoes, very nice here. Colorful potatoes, very nice. And like I mentioned before, everything should just fit in this pot. And if it doesn't, we're in good trouble, right? Just to,
Sam,
yeah.
could you make a vegetarian version of this?
Well, sure. We could. I would, if I were doing this vegetarian, which if I were cooking at home, I would have to, because my kids are vegetarians, and so I do a lot of vegetarian cooking. Something like this, I'd up the mushroom, maybe even throw in some dried mushroom to amp up the broth a little bit, maybe even a little bit of miso, just like, again, you want to build that background umami flavor, and then just use vegetables that you like. Things that might hold up nice, cauliflower would be cool in here, more carrots, more corn. Yeah, and something that I like, and unfortunately, my children not so much right now, but it's tempeh, and I think tempeh would be really good in here. And I might even I would be tempted to, I'd be tempted to hey, see, coming up with good material here. I'd be tempted to put that on the little grill thing as well, and just kind of give it a bit of flavor. And with tempeh, a neat trick is to boil it a little bit before you use it, like just even 5 minutes, and it gets a lot of that bitter flavor out. Still not quite enough, doesn't take quite enough out for my kids, but I think tempeh would be neat. Or, hey, what about, there's all these neat, like vegetarian and vegan sausages out there, like the field roast and stuff like that. Maybe throw something like that in this dish. Again, you got to be careful with, I mean, if you're a gluten intolerant person, watch out, like, for, look at labels. Like, I know field roast has gluten in it, but if that's not an issue for you, that could be a good addition for a vegetarian version. Okay, so I'm going to throw some water in here, and I'm going to go, well, not quite off screen. I'm still here, so I'm not going to get in too much trouble from my producers, because you don't like me to go off screen for some reason. But luckily I have a sink very close. So if you were camping next to a pristine waterfall of potable water, that's what that would be like. Okay, so we filled this just to cover the material. in the pot, and it, you know, it already looks like pretty neat broth, right? And so what I'm going to do at this point is just make sure nothing's stuck to the bottom of my pot, and give it a nice stir. Make sure everything is submerged. And so at this juncture, we cover this. And I do have a lid. I don't know if this lid fits this. Oh, close enough. So we cover this, and it's going to cook for half an hour or so. And you just want that meat to get tender and be cooked through, of course. And as I always like to mention, this is a really great little invention, the digital thermometer, or just the traditional thermometer, meat thermometer. But it's always good to make sure your meat, chicken 165, ground meat 160, 165 as well. So you can finish by temping after half an hour or so. But really, with a dish like this, what you're going to see is the meat should be kind of falling off the bone almost, really nice and tender. So it will be done. And it's that first half hour cook, and then it's going to get another 20 minutes or so anyway after we put our grilled stuff in there. And so I want to get the corn in there now as well. And so here's that corn, and it's nice and toasty. And what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting it in half. Okay, and we could get that in there to give all that good corn flavor in our broth. And it'll have a little toasty flavor too. Is there a question?
Yes, Sam. Alina would like to know if she can use meats other than chicken.
Oh boy, sure. I mean, yeah. Once again, that the thing in about this dish is you can put in all kinds of stuff, whatever. It's a good utilization dish. You want. I'd go towards bone-in stuff still, but pork. Any of the meats will be nice in here. You just want to look at having them cut down to a similar size so that it will cook at an even rate. But yeah, I think it would be fun to experiment with different kinds of meats and see what that does for your broth. Because it's all about building that caldo, right? The caldo, the broth. And that's the name of the dish. So let's look. Well, this is simmering away. Here we should be, yeah, we've got a little simmer happening. It's still at a shiver. But let's have a look at our, let's start off with the grilled stuff. And I'm going to put this pot to the side and bring the grill back and see what we need to do here to prep. Now our pepper, the pepper is going pretty slow. Like I mentioned, it takes a bit to blister up on this particular stovetop thing. It will do it eventually. But when I did a run through of this dish right before the class, I threw this on the flame, and I might end up doing that again just so we can get to peeling it. So, forgive me, but I'm going to utilize some open flame, and I'm going to put it right back here. And this is just a gas burner back here. And so I just throw that pepper right in the middle of the ring of fire and let it go. And until it's nice and black. And then I like to put that blackened pepper in a bag like this and let it sweat. And then the peel will come right off and we'll peel it and seal it. So that, I can hear it crackling away out there, which is good. And blistering, and it goes really fast on that. So let's look, well, that's doing its thing. We'll look at the onion. And the onion does great on the stovetop grill. It has those cool grill marks, and it's cooked through really nice. So these grilled vegetables, they're going to be cooked, and that's why we're putting them in right after that meat gets tender. Pop them in the pot, and they don't have to cook a whole lot, but they will add some nice flavor in and then the tomato will kind of disintegrate a bit and really add to the caldo. So with the onion, I like, since we kept it together, right, with that little root end. But at this point, I like to cut that root end off, and then the onion can fall apart a little bit, go throughout the dish, or maybe some will kind of stick together, and that's neat also. Just having a big hunk of onion on your plate is a lot of fun. Okay, and that pepper looking pretty good.
Sam, if you didn't have a grill like that or a stovetop grill, could you do the vegetables under the broiler?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up there. That question was, can you use a broiler? Broiler is a really good way to get that effect of the charring. A great way to go. Another way is just in a skillet. This is basically a skillet with some ridges on it. And so what the ridges do, one, if you're doing like a kind of a fatty piece of meat or something, it'll keep that stuff off your meat, but it gives the meat like grill marks, which looks so nice. But it's not necessary. This could just be a flat skillet, or the broiler is a really good way to go because you're getting that flame effect. And you can really get a good char with the broiler. So great suggestion. So I pop that in the bag, and then we'll just let it sweat a little bit. Meanwhile, I grab my little compost bowl, and I use this butter knife, but like a little spoon would be good here. And what we are looking to do is kind of seed the tomato and juice it a little bit, just get it all that excess pulp and pithy stuff out. So it's really hot, but if I let this cool down a little bit, which it's always a good idea. You could handle it and give it a little squeeze, and you just want to get the little seeds out of there. And as far as all this grilling stuff goes, you could skip it too. It adds another dimension to this dish, but it's not necessary, and you'd still have a really delicious dish if you just threw all this stuff in the pot without grilling it first. You would still kind of want to hold off as far as the tomato goes. I would still put the tomato in towards the end of my cook. And my lid was like a little small, but that's okay. I'm just going to, at this point, I'm going to add this stuff to the pot a little bit early because this is a class where we're trying to do it in a certain amount of time. But I think let's just, for fun, let's just check where our meat is at, because, you know, I bet it's pretty close, because we have a nice, nice roll going here, nice rolling roll. So the sausage is just about there. And the chicken's like at about it's getting there. It's like it's close to 160 here. So, you know, we're looking for a 165 on that. So we're getting there. It's nice and close. Okay, just remove a little more seed here. And, you know, with these tomatoes and the corn, this will be a great dish throughout the summer. And if you're a gardener, you could grow your own tomatoes and corn, and it'd be pretty neat. Come get your fresh chicken and sausage at Basics Market, and it will all be local and delicious. All right, got the onions, tuck the onions in there. And this dish always starts to get a really great fragrance from the corn, and it's very distinctive. Definitely reminds me of summertime. Okay, so let's see how our poblano is doing. So it's been sweating a bit, right? And so you can just use like the back end of the knife and scrape and you can get most of that. And, you know, you can use the sharp side as well to really get at it. But a little bit of char in the pot there is not the worst thing. It'll add some nice flavor. But you want to get most of that off. And then have a look in there. And on the other side, you've got your stem and you've got your seeds. So we'll just scrape those out. And chop this guy up. And pop that right in. And, you know, I added a little extra potatoes and a little extra chicken, so my pot is overflowing. But that things could be worse, right? Having too much in the pot, hey, that's kind of a nice problem to have. Okay, well, that is about it. I have one dish that's all cooked through, so I'm going to for one pot of the caldo. I'm going to bring that out, and then we'll finish it and see how it tastes.
Sam, could you do this in the oven instead of the stovetop?
Yeah, you know, you could definitely do this in the oven. I go for setting of like 375. I think would be good here. You want to get it kind of have it simmering in there, and have a lid that can go in the oven. Not all Dutch oven lids are oven proof. This one is. This has a metal knob. I have my Dutch oven at home is frustrating for me because it is a Le Creuset, and some of those have like kind of a hard plastic knob, and that like I like to bake bread in my Dutch oven, and it bakes at 500 degrees or something, and that lid, that knob can only go to like 400 or something like that. So I want to get a replacement knob for that lid. So you just don't want to melt your pot. But yeah, I have an alternate lid which works pretty well. It is metal, but you just want to cover it one way or another. You could even use foil if you had needed to. But the covering will keep it from your broth, which is the whole thing here, right? The caldo, keep it from evaporating, and so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so to finish the dish, I'm going to use some limes. And so lime, we're just going to quarter it. And cut out the little pithy guys. And this way, it's easy to squeeze. And then we have some nice fresh cilantro. This is really good looking cilantro. And cilantro, I like to just sort of run my sharp knife across the leaves, and it usually comes off the stem pretty good. And with cilantro, a little bit of stem, it's okay. The stem tastes good as well. So it's all right. You know, just kind of rough chop the cilantro. Okay, just about ready to dish it up. I'm going to grab my pot. So here is the one, the finished bag. So the plate, it's, you know, you cut a nice wide bowl like this is a good plating situation for this dish. Some tongs are good to utilize. Now, depending on who's eating this, you know, and how many people and stuff, this is a real adaptable recipe. So I could cut this sausage, excuse me, I could leave the sausage whole, right? Or I could cut it in several pieces. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it in 4 pieces, I think, just for our purposes here. But in the same with the chicken or whatever meats you're using, you know, you can cut them up to accommodate whatever sort of crowd you are serving. So let's get a little of everything. I think I'll put a little broth down first. And it's not a bad idea to taste the broth. And so I'm going to get a little tasting bowl. And I'm going to have a sip of broth. Is there a question?
Yes, Sam. Alina would like to know where cilantro comes from.
Cilantro, boy, I don't know where cilantro was originally from. That is a great question. I will look that up. I'm not sure. It tastes really good already. So I'm not going to add anything. But if you wanted more salt, more pepper, or if you wanted like to spice up the whole pot, you could add it at this juncture. This one's been sitting around on the heat for a little while, so looks like my potatoes got a little bit overdone, but That's all right. Okay, so I got a piece of chicken with the sausage, and you definitely want some corn. And it's fun to have the corn on the cob like that in the dish, such as this. But of course, you could cut it off the top. And I'm just looking to get a little bit of everything in there. One of those onions. And definitely some mushrooms. And it would be fun to use, like, if you had access to some wild mushrooms, would be really needed here and give some more flavor. And why I'm using the ladle tongs. Let's see here. See if I can find that 1, 5. Right. But anyway, oh, there it is. Well, there's another way. Let's just do that. A drumstick. Okay, and then you top it with your cilantro and give a squeeze of lime. Oops. And voila, there is a lovely caldo. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration and are able to make this dish yourself. As always, please visit our markets and see what we have to offer. We have our own farms, and we're raising chickens, we're raising beef, we have eggs. Just this week, we started selling our own butter from our own milk, which is it's all the stuffs from the Willamette Valley. This is the Willamette Valley Caldo, and we're making it right here in the Willamette Valley. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and please come back next week. We're looking at more, we're getting more into chicken. I think we'll be chopping one up, making some broth, and getting into that. So please join me for that, and I look forward to seeing you then. Happy cooking.